Confidence is one of the most attractive qualities a person can embody, and for a high-value woman, it becomes her silent language. It's the essence of how she carries herself, not just in her actions, but also in her words. When she speaks, her tone reflects her inner stability, her belief in herself, and her understanding of her own worth. This isn't about boasting or putting herself on a pedestal. It's about an unshakable foundation that doesn't require outside validation to stand strong. Confidence for a high-value woman is quiet and steady, yet profoundly impactful. It's magnetic because it doesn't shout, it simply exists, drawing respect without demand. When a high-value woman engages in conversation, she doesn't overcompensate or dominate the discussion to prove her worth. Instead, she listens attentively, observes with intent, and speaks with clarity. Her confidence stems from knowing that her voice matters, and as a result, she chooses her words carefully. She understands that speaking with confidence doesn't mean being loud or aggressive. On the contrary, it means expressing herself calmly and assertively, leaving room for mutual respect to flourish. Her words are deliberate, meaningful, and designed to elevate the conversation, not overshadow it. In conversations with men, especially those who may be potential partners, this confident demeanor becomes a subtle yet powerful tool. She doesn't feel the need to fill silences with nervous chatter or excessively agree to gain approval. Instead, she embraces silence as an equal part of the dialogue, allowing the exchange to breathe and develop naturally. This ability to be comfortable in silence is a testament to her inner confidence. It signals that she doesn't feel pressure to prove herself or rush to impress. Instead, she holds space for both herself and the other person, creating an atmosphere of mutual understanding. Confidence for a high-value woman also manifests in her ability to express her opinions without fear of judgment. She doesn't hesitate to share her thoughts, even if they differ from the norm or challenge the perspective of the person she's speaking to. This doesn't mean she's confrontational or argumentative. It means she values her own insights and isn't afraid to let them shine. Her confidence enables her to present her ideas respectfully and intelligently, encouraging a deeper connection through meaningful dialogue. Moreover, a confident woman is not swayed by the fear of rejection or disapproval. She understands that not every person will align with her values or reciprocate her energy, and that's perfectly fine. This mindset frees her from the burden of trying to please everyone she meets. Instead, she focuses on being true to herself and connecting authentically with those who appreciate her for who she is. In the presence of a high-value woman, a man senses that her confidence isn't dependent on him or anyone else. It's a self-sustaining force. A high-value woman doesn't shy away from expressing her needs and desires in a relationship. She doesn't hint or beat around the bush, hoping the other person will read her mind. Instead, she communicates directly but kindly, ensuring that her expectations are clear. This level of confidence in her communication sets the tone for mutual respect. It tells the other person that she values herself enough to voice her needs, and she respects them enough to trust that they'll engage in an honest conversation. Another aspect of speaking with confidence is avoiding the trap of over-explaining or justifying herself. A high-value woman doesn't feel the need to provide endless explanations for her decisions, preferences, or boundaries. She understands that her choices are valid, and she trusts herself enough to stand by them. This doesn't mean she's rigid or unwilling to compromise. Rather, it means she approaches situations with clarity and self-assurance. When she says no to something, it's not followed by a lengthy justification. Her no is firm yet respectful, leaving no room for doubt or misunderstanding. When disagreements arise, her confidence shines through in how she handles conflict. Instead of resorting to emotional outbursts or defensive tactics, she approaches the situation with a level head. She communicates her perspective calmly, listens to the other person, and seeks resolution rather than victory. Her confidence allows her to prioritize understanding over ego, fostering an environment where both parties feel heard and valued. This mature approach to conflict resolution is another way her confidence elevates her interactions. The power of a confident woman's speech lies not just in what she says, but also in how she says it. Her tone is steady, her pace deliberate, and her delivery poised. There's no hint of desperation or neediness in her voice. Instead, it carries a quiet strength that commands attention. This doesn't mean she's emotionless or detached. On the contrary, she speaks with warmth and sincerity. However, her words are always grounded in self-respect, creating a balance between approachability and authority. Ultimately, speaking with confidence isn't about putting on a facade or trying to appear flawless. It's about embracing authenticity and understanding that true confidence comes from within. A high-value woman knows that her worth isn't defined by external factors, and this understanding permeates every aspect of her communication. When she speaks, her confidence acts as a bridge, inviting others to connect with her on a deeper, more meaningful level. When a high-value woman communicates, her focus is not on seeking validation, but on sharing her value. This approach fundamentally shifts the energy of any conversation she enters. She understands that validation is fleeting and external, while value is enduring and intrinsic. Her self-worth isn't built on the compliments she receives or the opinions others have of her. It's rooted in a deep understanding of who she is and what she brings to the table. This mindset frees her from the exhausting need to constantly seek approval, allowing her to approach interactions with authenticity and purpose. In conversations, she doesn't use her words to fish for compliments or to coax admiration from others. She doesn't ask questions like, "Do you think I look good or did I do well?" because her confidence in her abilities and appearance eliminates the need for external affirmation. Instead, she focuses on contributing to the dialogue in ways that reflect her intelligence, insight, and character. Her words are carefully chosen to enhance the conversation, not to feed her ego. This creates a dynamic where others are naturally drawn to her energy because it feels genuine and empowering. When she speaks, a high-value woman is not afraid to assert her accomplishments or discuss her strengths, but she does so in a way that feels balanced and grounded. She doesn't brag or boast. Instead, she shares her successes as a way of demonstrating her capabilities and inspiring others. Her intent is not to overshadow or impress, but to add value to the conversation. For example, rather than saying, "I'm the best at what I do," she might say, "I've worked hard to achieve certain results, and I'm proud of the progress I've made." This subtle shift in language conveys confidence without arrogance, ensuring that her message is received positively. A key part of focusing on value rather than validation is being comfortable with giving recognition to others. A high-value woman knows that lifting others up doesn't diminish her own worth. She doesn't hesitate to acknowledge someone else's strengths or celebrate their achievements. This generosity of spirit is a reflection of her inner security. She understands that relationships thrive when there's mutual respect and appreciation, and she actively cultivates this dynamic by recognizing the value in others. Her ability to balance self-assurance with humility makes her interactions uplifting and memorable. In romantic contexts, this principle becomes even more pronounced. A high-value woman doesn't rely on a man to validate her beauty, intelligence, or worthiness. She knows these truths about herself and doesn't need constant reminders to believe them. This doesn't mean she doesn't appreciate compliments or kind words. It means she doesn't depend on them for her self-esteem. When a man compliments her, she accepts it graciously, but she doesn't allow it to define her. She might say, "Thank you, that means a lot," rather than downplaying the compliment or overly basking in it. Her response reflects gratitude, not neediness, reinforcing her self-reliant nature. Because she doesn't seek validation, a high-value woman is also less likely to be swayed by flattery. She can distinguish between genuine admiration and empty words meant to manipulate or placate. This discernment allows her to navigate relationships with clarity and avoid being drawn into situations that don't align with her values. She knows that true validation comes from actions, not just words, and she pays attention to how people treat her, not just what they say to her. This mindset ensures that her relationships are built on a foundation of mutual respect and authenticity. Her focus on value also influences how she handles disagreements or criticism. She doesn't become defensive or crumble under the weight of someone else's opinion because her sense of self is not tied to external validation. Instead, she approaches these situations with curiosity and composure. If someone offers constructive feedback, she listens with an open mind, recognizing that it's an opportunity for growth. If the criticism is baseless or malicious, she doesn't internalize it or let it shake her confidence. Her ability to remain steady in the face of negativity is a testament to her inner strength and self-assuredness. Another way she emphasizes value over validation is in how she sets her boundaries. A high-value woman doesn't compromise her standards to gain approval or avoid conflict. She communicates her boundaries clearly and confidently, knowing that they are an essential part of her self-respect. For example, if she's uncomfortable with a certain behavior, she doesn't hesitate to address it. She might say, "I value honesty, and I need us to have open communication," rather than silently tolerating something that goes against her principles. This approach ensures that her relationships are aligned with her values and fosters an environment of mutual respect. When she enters a room or participates in a discussion, a high-value woman's presence is felt because she adds substance. Her focus is on contributing meaningfully, whether that means sharing her knowledge, offering support, or simply being a good listener. She doesn't seek the spotlight for the sake of recognition. Instead, she lets her actions and words speak for themselves. This authenticity creates a natural magnetism that draws others to her and inspires them to bring their best selves forward. Even in moments of vulnerability, a high-value woman remains rooted in her value. She doesn't hide her struggles or pretend to be perfect, but she also doesn't use her hardships as a way to garner sympathy or attention. Instead, she shares her experiences with the intent to connect and inspire. For instance, she might say, "I faced challenges, but they've taught me resilience," rather than seeking pity or reassurance. This balance between vulnerability and strength is what makes her truly compelling in her interactions. A high-value woman understands the art of speaking with elegance and poise, a skill that allows her to communicate with clarity and impact while maintaining an air of grace. Elegance in communication isn't just about the words she chooses, it's about the entire energy she brings into the conversation. It's reflected in her tone, her demeanor, and her ability to connect on a meaningful level without resorting to aggression or defensiveness. This quality sets her apart and draws others to her, not because she seeks attention, but because her presence is naturally engaging and inspiring. When she speaks, she chooses her words with intention. She knows that every word carries weight, so she avoids unnecessary fillers, gossip, or negativity that could dilute the power of her message. Her sentences are thoughtful and purposeful, demonstrating her intelligence and emotional maturity. She doesn't feel the need to talk excessively to be heard. Instead, she speaks when she has something meaningful to contribute. This ability to balance speaking and listening creates an aura of respect and authority, making her words resonate deeply with those around her. Tone plays a significant role in her communication style. A high-value woman doesn't raise her voice or use harsh language to assert herself. Instead, she relies on a calm and steady tone that conveys confidence and composure. Even when addressing challenging topics, her voice remains measured and controlled, ensuring that her message is received without unnecessary conflict or tension. This approach demonstrates her ability to manage her emotions and maintain a sense of decorum, even in high-pressure situations. Her elegance extends to how she listens. Communication isn't just about talking, it's also about understanding. A high-value woman listens attentively, giving the speaker her full attention and responding thoughtfully. She doesn't interrupt or rush to offer her opinion. Instead, she processes what's being said and takes the time to craft a response that adds value to the conversation. This habit of active listening shows respect for the other person and creates a space where meaningful dialogue can flourish. It also enhances her ability to connect with others on a deeper level, as people feel genuinely heard and understood in her presence. In addition to listening, she excels at reading the nuances of a conversation. She's attuned to the unspoken cues, the body language, tone, and energy of the interaction that reveal what words alone cannot. This sensitivity allows her to navigate complex discussions with ease, adapting her approach to fit the situation while staying true to her principles. Whether she's offering advice, addressing a conflict, or simply engaging in casual conversation, her awareness of these subtle dynamics enables her to respond with empathy and wisdom. A high-value woman also knows the importance of timing in communication. She understands that there's a time to speak and a time to remain silent, and she respects both. She doesn't rush to fill every pause with words or speak out of turn to assert her presence. Instead, she waits for the right moment to make her point, ensuring that her words are not only heard but also appreciated. This patience reflects her confidence and self-assurance, as she doesn't feel the need to compete for attention or force her opinions onto others. Her communication style is rooted in authenticity, which further enhances her elegance. She doesn't pretend to be someone she's not or use manipulative tactics to gain favor. Instead, she speaks from the heart, sharing her thoughts and feelings honestly while maintaining a sense of dignity. This authenticity makes her relatable and trustworthy, as people can sense that her words are genuine. It also gives her the freedom to express herself without fear of judgment, as she's secure in her identity and values. When addressing conflict, her elegance becomes particularly evident. A high-value woman doesn't resort to shouting, blaming, or belittling others to make her point. She approaches disagreements with a calm and rational mindset, seeking resolution rather than escalation. She might say, "I understand your perspective and I'd like to share mine," rather than reacting impulsively or defensively. This measured response not only diffuses tension but also sets a standard for respectful communication that others are likely to follow. Her ability to handle conflict with grace is a testament to her emotional intelligence and maturity. Her elegance in communication also manifests in how she sets boundaries. She communicates her limits clearly and assertively, without aggression or apology. For example, she might say, "I value my time and energy, and I need to prioritize them right now," rather than making excuses or allowing herself to be overextended. This straightforward yet respectful approach ensures that her boundaries are understood and respected, reinforcing her self-worth and protecting her well-being. In romantic relationships, her elegance shines in how she navigates vulnerability. She's not afraid to express her emotions or share her needs, but she does so in a way that feels balanced and respectful. She doesn't demand or manipulate to get what she wants. Instead, she communicates her desires with clarity and grace, creating a dynamic of mutual respect and understanding. For example, she might say, "I appreciate it when we spend quality time together. It makes me feel valued," rather than resorting to complaints or ultimatums. This approach fosters a deeper emotional connection while maintaining her sense of dignity. Her elegant communication style is also reflected in how she handles compliments and criticism. When praised, she accepts it graciously, saying thank you with a warm smile rather than deflecting or downplaying the compliment. When faced with criticism, she doesn't react defensively or internalize negativity. Instead, she evaluates the feedback objectively, taking what's constructive and letting go of what's not. This balanced approach demonstrates her resilience and self-assurance, as she remains grounded in her worth regardless of external opinions. A high-value woman understands the significance of maintaining clear boundaries in her interactions, and this awareness extends to how she communicates with others. Boundaries are not about creating distance or building walls, but about defining the parameters within which healthy and respectful interactions can thrive. Setting boundaries demonstrates her self-respect, emotional intelligence, and awareness of her worth. She knows that without boundaries, relationships can become imbalanced and her sense of self can be compromised. When engaging in conversations, she is deliberate in asserting her limits without being confrontational. She communicates her boundaries calmly and directly, ensuring her message is understood without creating unnecessary tension. For instance, she might say, "I need time to think about this before making a decision," rather than allowing herself to be pressured into immediate action. This kind of assertiveness reflects her confidence in prioritizing her needs while respecting the dynamics of the interaction. Her boundaries also extend to how she manages her time and energy. A high-value woman recognizes that her resources are finite, and she allocates them wisely. She doesn't overextend herself to accommodate others' demands at the expense of her well-being. For example, if she feels overwhelmed by commitments, she communicates this openly: "I would love to help, but my schedule is full right now. Let's revisit this later." This ability to say no when necessary is a hallmark of her strength and clarity. It shows that she values her time and energy as much as she values the relationships in her life. She also sets emotional boundaries in her conversations, ensuring she doesn't allow others to dictate her feelings or override her sense of self. If someone's comments cross a line, she addresses it respectfully but firmly, saying something like, "I appreciate your input, but I'd prefer we discuss this differently." This kind of response not only protects her emotional well-being, but also sets a standard for how she expects to be treated. It reinforces the idea that respect is a two-way street and that her boundaries are not negotiable. A high-value woman is also attuned to the boundaries of others. She doesn't impose her opinions, beliefs, or expectations on anyone, understanding that mutual respect is the foundation of healthy communication. She pays attention to the cues and signals from those she interacts with, adjusting her approach when necessary to ensure her presence feels supportive rather than intrusive. This sensitivity to others' needs enhances her ability to connect authentically and fosters an environment of trust and mutual understanding. Her boundaries are especially evident in how she navigates difficult or potentially confrontational situations. She doesn't shy away from addressing issues, but she approaches them with tact and thoughtfulness. For example, if she feels disrespected, she doesn't react impulsively or aggressively. Instead, she might say, "I value open and respectful communication, and I feel that this conversation isn't reflecting that. Can we take a moment to reassess?" This measured response not only protects her dignity, but also models the kind of interaction she seeks to cultivate. In romantic relationships, her boundaries serve as a framework for building trust and respect. She communicates her expectations clearly, ensuring her partner understands her values and priorities. For instance, she might express, "It's important to me that we support each other's goals and ambitions," as a way of setting the tone for mutual encouragement. If a partner oversteps her boundaries, she addresses it without fear, saying, "I need to feel that my voice is heard in this relationship. Let's work on ensuring that happens." These conversations are not about creating conflict, but about fostering a deeper connection based on mutual respect. Her boundaries also play a crucial role in how she handles unsolicited advice or criticism. She knows that not all feedback is constructive or delivered with good intentions, so she evaluates it carefully before deciding how to respond. If the feedback feels unwarranted or unkind, she doesn't internalize it or let it affect her sense of self. Instead, she might say, "I appreciate your perspective, but I'm confident in the choices I've made." This response reinforces her confidence and autonomy while maintaining a sense of composure. A high-value woman's boundaries extend to how she engages in group settings or social dynamics. She doesn't feel compelled to participate in every discussion or agree with every opinion to gain approval. If she feels that a conversation isn't aligned with her values or interests, she gracefully steps back, saying something like, "This topic doesn't resonate with me, but I'm happy to contribute in another way." This ability to disengage from situations that don't serve her underscores her self-assurance and clarity about her priorities. Her boundaries also protect her from becoming overly involved in others' emotional burdens. While she's empathetic and supportive, she knows that taking on too much responsibility for others' feelings can be draining and counterproductive. If someone tries to offload their issues onto her without considering her emotional capacity, she might respond, "I'm here to support you, but I also need to take care of my own well-being. Let's find a balanced way to address this." This approach allows her to offer support without sacrificing her emotional health. Ultimately, her boundaries are a reflection of her inner strength and clarity about her worth. They are not about pushing people away, but about creating the space for authentic and respectful connections. Her ability to communicate these boundaries with grace and confidence ensures that her relationships are rooted in mutual respect and understanding, allowing her to maintain her integrity and well-being in every interaction. A high-value woman understands the profound influence of her words and uses this power thoughtfully to cultivate connections and inspire respect. Her language is not only a reflection of her intelligence, but also an indication of her emotional maturity, self-control, and intent. She knows that the way she communicates can either build bridges or create barriers, and she chooses her words deliberately to align with her values and aspirations. When she speaks, her tone conveys confidence and assurance without arrogance. She avoids the temptation to belittle or undermine others to assert her own worth, recognizing that such behavior stems from insecurity rather than strength. Instead, her words exude a sense of self-assured calm, leaving no room for doubt about her conviction. For example, rather than demanding attention with aggression, she asserts herself with clarity and poise, saying something like, "I have an idea I'd like to share when you're ready to discuss it." This approach ensures her voice is heard without creating unnecessary tension. Her language is also marked by intentional positivity. A high-value woman understands the weight of negativity and the way it can influence both her mindset and those around her. She consciously avoids engaging in gossip, complaints, or unwarranted criticism. Instead, she steers conversations toward constructive and uplifting topics, redirecting negativity with subtle yet firm grace. For instance, if a discussion veers into disparaging remarks about someone else, she might counter with, "I'd rather focus on what we can learn from this situation than dwell on someone else's shortcomings." Her ability to guide conversations in this way not only protects her integrity, but also sets a higher standard for those she interacts with. The intentionality in her speech extends to how she addresses conflict or misunderstandings. A high-value woman does not shy away from difficult conversations, but she approaches them with a mindset geared toward resolution rather than blame. She refrains from using accusatory or inflammatory language, choosing instead to express her feelings and needs with clarity and respect. For instance, if she feels hurt by someone's actions, she might say, "I felt hurt when this happened, and I'd like to talk about how we can avoid this in the future," rather than resorting to statements like, "You always make me feel this way." This distinction in phrasing demonstrates her focus on constructive outcomes rather than escalating the issue. Her choice of words also reflects her emotional intelligence and sensitivity to others' feelings. She listens actively before responding, ensuring she fully understands the context and perspective of the person she is speaking with. This thoughtful approach enables her to tailor her language to suit the situation, whether she's offering encouragement, providing constructive feedback, or setting boundaries. For example, when giving feedback, she balances honesty with kindness, saying something like, "I think you did a great job with this, and here are a few ideas to make it even better," rather than highlighting only the flaws. This balance fosters trust and mutual respect in her relationships. A high-value woman's speech is also characterized by its intentionality in romantic interactions. She communicates her needs and desires without hesitation, understanding that clarity is the foundation of a healthy relationship. She avoids playing mind games or relying on manipulation, choosing instead to express her thoughts with authenticity and directness. For example, if she values quality time with her partner, she might say, "I really enjoy when we spend time together without distractions. Can we plan more moments like that?" This straightforward approach eliminates ambiguity and ensures her intentions are understood. Her ability to use words effectively is especially evident in how she navigates situations that challenge her composure. When faced with criticism, provocation, or hostility, she refrains from reacting impulsively or defensively. Instead, she takes a moment to gather her thoughts and responds with measured and thoughtful language. If someone makes a hurtful comment, she might reply, "I'd prefer we keep our conversation respectful. Let's focus on finding common ground rather than lashing out or retreating." This level of self-control not only protects her dignity, but also reinforces her strength and resilience. Her speech is also an instrument for fostering growth and inspiring those around her. She uses her words to uplift, motivate, and empower others, recognizing that her voice carries the potential to create positive change. Whether she's offering advice, sharing her experiences, or simply encouraging someone to pursue their goals, her words are infused with sincerity and purpose. She might say, "I believe in your ability to overcome this challenge. You've already shown so much strength." As a way of reinforcing someone's confidence and determination, this capacity to inspire through her words reflects her deep understanding of the impact language can have on others' lives. In addition, she is mindful of the importance of timing and context in communication. A high-value woman knows that even the most carefully chosen words can lose their impact if delivered at the wrong moment. She takes the time to assess the situation and determine the most appropriate way to convey her message. For example, if she needs to address a sensitive issue, she chooses a private and calm setting rather than discussing it in a public or high-pressure environment. This awareness of timing enhances the effectiveness of her communication and demonstrates her thoughtfulness and consideration. Her mastery of language also includes the ability to remain silent when necessary. She understands that silence can be as powerful as words, especially when used to convey confidence, patience, or disapproval. Rather than filling every pause with unnecessary chatter, she embraces moments of quiet reflection, allowing her presence to speak for itself. This ability to balance speech with silence further amplifies the impact of her words when she does choose to speak. The deliberate and thoughtful nature of her communication sets her apart and underscores her value. By choosing her words with care, maintaining a positive and constructive tone, and aligning her language with her values, she creates an aura of respect and admiration. Her speech becomes a tool for building meaningful connections, resolving conflicts, and inspiring growth, reinforcing her position as a woman of integrity and influence. A high-value woman understands the importance of boundaries in creating and maintaining healthy relationships. Her ability to set, communicate, and uphold boundaries is a reflection of her self-respect and awareness of her emotional and mental well-being. She recognizes that boundaries are not about keeping people out, but about establishing a framework for mutual respect, trust, and understanding. This awareness shapes her approach to interactions, ensuring they are rooted in authenticity and alignment with her values. When communicating boundaries, a high-value woman uses clear and assertive language to express her needs and expectations. She doesn't rely on passive hints or indirect suggestions. Instead, she speaks with conviction and specificity. For instance, if she values her personal space or time, she might say, "I need time to focus on myself tonight, so let's reschedule our plans for another day," rather than making vague excuses. This straightforward communication eliminates confusion and demonstrates her confidence in asserting her needs without fear of judgment or rejection. Her boundaries are not arbitrary but are deeply tied to her sense of self and what she considers essential for her peace and growth. She takes the time to reflect on her priorities and values, which helps her establish boundaries that protect her well-being. These boundaries might include limiting her availability to people who drain her energy, maintaining personal time for self-care, or setting expectations about how she wants to be treated in a relationship. By having a clear understanding of her limits, she avoids overextending herself or compromising her standards for the sake of others' approval. A high-value woman also recognizes that setting boundaries is not a one-time event but an ongoing process. She remains flexible and open to revisiting and adjusting her boundaries as circumstances evolve. For example, she might initially set a boundary about work-life balance but find that her career demands change over time. Rather than rigidly clinging to outdated rules, she assesses her current situation and modifies her boundaries accordingly. This adaptability reflects her maturity and commitment to maintaining balance in her life. In addition to setting her own boundaries, a high-value woman respects the boundaries of others. She listens attentively when someone expresses their needs and refrains from imposing her expectations or desires onto them. This mutual respect creates a foundation of trust and reciprocity, strengthening her relationships. For instance, if a friend needs space after a difficult conversation, she honors their request without taking it personally. Her ability to navigate these dynamics with empathy and understanding showcases her emotional intelligence and self-assuredness. One of the most significant challenges of maintaining boundaries is dealing with pushback or resistance from others. A high-value woman is prepared for such situations and handles them with composure and resolve. She does not allow guilt or manipulation to weaken her stance, understanding that her boundaries are essential for her well-being. If someone challenges her decision to decline an invitation, she might respond calmly, "I appreciate the offer, but I've made other plans that are important to me." Her ability to remain firm without becoming defensive or confrontational reinforces her strength and integrity. She also recognizes the difference between assertiveness and aggression when enforcing her boundaries. While assertiveness involves expressing her needs confidently and respectfully, aggression can create unnecessary conflict or alienation. A high-value woman chooses her words carefully, ensuring that her tone and language align with her intent. For example, instead of saying, "You always ignore what I want," she might say, "I feel unheard when my needs aren't considered, and I'd like us to work on better communication." This approach not only reinforces her boundaries, but also invites collaboration and understanding. Her ability to uphold boundaries extends to all aspects of her life, including her professional and social environments. In the workplace, she sets boundaries to ensure she is not overburdened or taken advantage of. She might decline additional responsibilities that exceed her capacity, saying, I want to give my best effort to the tasks I'm currently managing, so I can't take on more right now. This demonstrates her commitment to delivering quality work while prioritizing her well-being. Similarly, in social settings, she doesn't feel pressured to conform or participate in activities that conflict with her values or preferences. In romantic relationships, boundaries play a crucial role in fostering respect and equality. A high-value woman communicates her expectations openly and ensures that her partner understands and respects them. She does not compromise her values for the sake of maintaining the relationship, as she knows that doing so would lead to resentment and dissatisfaction. For instance, if she values honesty, she might say, I need transparency in our communication to feel secure in this relationship. Her willingness to address these topics head-on sets the tone for a partnership built on trust and mutual respect. At the same time, she understands that enforcing boundaries requires consistency and self-discipline. She avoids sending mixed signals or allowing exceptions that undermine her credibility. For example, if she has established that she won't tolerate disrespectful behavior, she follows through by addressing it immediately when it occurs, rather than letting it slide. This consistency reinforces the importance of her boundaries and prevents misunderstandings or misinterpretations. A high-value woman also recognizes that setting boundaries is an act of self-love, not selfishness. She understands that by protecting her energy and well-being, she is better equipped to show up authentically and wholeheartedly in her relationships. This perspective helps her overcome any feelings of guilt or hesitation about asserting her needs. She knows that healthy boundaries benefit not only herself but also the people around her, as they create a framework for balanced and harmonious interactions. Her ability to communicate and uphold boundaries is a testament to her inner strength and self-awareness. By valuing herself enough to set limits, she demonstrates to others how she expects to be treated. Her boundaries serve as a guide for respectful and meaningful relationships, ensuring that her interactions are rooted in mutual understanding and alignment with her values. Through her example, she inspires others to embrace the importance of boundaries in their own lives, creating a ripple effect of empowerment and respect. A high-value woman knows that her words carry power, and she chooses them carefully to convey her thoughts, intentions, and emotions with precision and grace. Her communication is deliberate, thoughtful, and impactful, reflecting her confidence and emotional intelligence. She understands that the way she speaks shapes how others perceive her, and she uses this awareness to create meaningful and respectful connections. When she speaks, she avoids impulsive or reactionary statements. Instead, she takes a moment to assess the situation, ensuring that her words align with her values and the outcome she desires. This intentional approach allows her to express herself clearly without being clouded by frustration or heightened emotions. For example, if she feels misunderstood in a conversation, she doesn't rush to defend herself with heated words. Instead, she might calmly say, I'd like to clarify what I meant earlier so we're on the same page. This measured response not only diffuses potential conflict, but also demonstrates her poise and self-control. Her language is rooted in respect, both for herself and others. She avoids demeaning or condescending remarks, recognizing that such words can damage relationships and undermine her credibility. Instead, she uses language that uplifts and inspires, even when addressing disagreements or difficult topics. If she needs to correct someone or offer constructive feedback, she does so with kindness and tact. For instance, instead of saying, you always get this wrong, she might say, I think we can approach this in a better way. Let's discuss some ideas together. This approach fosters collaboration and mutual respect, strengthening her relationships. She also understands the importance of tone and communication. Her words are not only shaped by their literal meaning, but also by the way they are delivered. A high-value woman uses a tone that reflects her intentions, whether she is offering encouragement, addressing a concern, or setting a boundary. If she wants to express empathy, her tone is warm and understanding. If she needs to assert herself, her tone is firm yet respectful. This nuanced use of tone enhances the effectiveness of her communication and ensures that her message is received as intended. In addition to the content and tone of her words, a high-value woman pays attention to the context in which she speaks. She is mindful of timing and setting, recognizing that certain conversations require privacy, patience, or a particular environment to be productive. For example, she wouldn't bring up a sensitive issue in a public setting or during a moment of heightened stress. Instead, she chooses an appropriate time and place to address the matter, ensuring that the discussion can be handled thoughtfully and respectfully. This awareness of context reflects her emotional intelligence and her ability to navigate complex social dynamics with grace. Her communication is also characterized by active listening, which she views as an integral part of meaningful dialogue. A high-value woman listens not just to respond, but to understand, giving her full attention to the speaker and considering their perspective. She avoids interrupting or dismissing their thoughts, even if she disagrees. Instead, she acknowledges their viewpoint before sharing her own. For instance, she might say, "I see where you're coming from, and I'd like to share my perspective on this." This approach fosters open and constructive communication, making the other person feel heard and valued. When expressing her needs or desires, a high-value woman is unapologetic yet considerate. She doesn't downplay her feelings or make unnecessary excuses, as she understands the importance of advocating for herself with clarity and confidence. If she wants to prioritize her personal time, she might say, "I've had a busy week and need some time to recharge, so I won't be able to join you this weekend." Her honesty and self-assuredness in these moments demonstrate her respect for her own boundaries, while also setting an example of healthy communication for others. She avoids using her words as weapons, even in moments of anger or frustration. A high-value woman understands that hurtful language can leave lasting scars, and she chooses to address conflicts with maturity and empathy. Instead of resorting to insults or accusations, she focuses on expressing her feelings and finding solutions. If someone disappoints her, she might say, "I felt let down when this happened, and I'd like us to find a way to avoid it in the future." This constructive approach not only resolves issues more effectively, but also preserves the integrity of her relationships. Her communication is also marked by a sense of authenticity and vulnerability. A high-value woman doesn't feel the need to put on a facade or hide her true self to gain approval or avoid conflict. She speaks from the heart, sharing her thoughts and emotions with honesty and courage. If she feels unsure or needs support, she is not afraid to admit it, saying, "I'm feeling a bit uncertain about this, and I'd appreciate your input." This openness fosters deeper connections and encourages others to be authentic in return. At the same time, a high-value woman is discerning about what she chooses to share and with whom. She understands the importance of protecting her energy and privacy, and she doesn't feel obligated to disclose everything about herself to everyone. She carefully evaluates whether the person she is speaking to has earned her trust and whether sharing certain information serves a constructive purpose. This discretion ensures that her words are meaningful and impactful, rather than being wasted on untrustworthy or irrelevant audiences. Her ability to communicate effectively extends beyond verbal exchanges. A high-value woman is also attentive to nonverbal cues, such as body language, facial expressions, and eye contact. She understands that these elements can enhance or undermine the message she is trying to convey. If she wants to show support, she might offer a reassuring smile or a gentle touch. If she needs to assert herself, she maintains steady eye contact and a composed posture. By aligning her nonverbal communication with her words, she reinforces her message and ensures that it is received with clarity and sincerity. A high-value woman's communication style is a reflection of her inner confidence, emotional intelligence, and respect for herself and others. She approaches every conversation with intention, authenticity, and thoughtfulness, ensuring that her words contribute to building strong and respectful relationships. Through her deliberate and impactful use of language, she inspires others to communicate with the same level of integrity and purpose.